Hi, and welcome into this Telstra virtual event. I'm Justin Cleveland, and excited to talk about the NBN today and its potential not only for business, but for personal uses as well. Really excited to stream 4K video. But before we delve into the topic, I do want to let you know some of the things that you can do with the Telstra Virtual Events platform. Along the bottom of your screen, you will see some widgets that include a resources tab to download a copy of the NBN Pocket Guide. You can also, you'll see a Q&A box there so that you can submit your questions to our panel. And honestly, how deep we go is completely up to you. Submit your questions early, often, so we can ensure that we get them answered here today. But back onto our topic. The NBN offers a brilliant opportunity for new technologies to flourish. However, the politics and perhaps some of the changes in technology has made it difficult to understand exactly what is coming and when. So that's why I've invited Rob Hacker, the General Manager for NBN Co., to join us and demystify the technologies and also talk us through all of what this is going to mean. First of all, welcome to you, Rob.
Thanks very much.
Also speaking with us today is Paul Shepard and Jordan Bell. They've worked with companies who are employing the NBN in their businesses. We'll get some tips for getting the services up and running in your organization. First of all, welcome to you, Paul.
Hello, everybody.
And also joining us on the line is Jordan. Thank you very much, Jordan.
Thanks, Justin.
And you can find out more about each one of these individuals down in that tab along the bottom of your screen for the speaker list. Find out everything you need to know. But before we get, again, into the topic too far, I do want to ask questions of you in the audience. And that is, first of all, when do you plan to migrate to the NBN? As soon as possible, eventually, but it's not a priority for you, only when you have to or you're forced to, or you're unsure. So you should see a poll pop up on your screen there. And I think one of the reasons that people are perhaps hesitant about their transition, Rob, is that they're just not sure of the strategy for rollout. I know I'm very excited about it because I want to stream things. I'm a big internet user, and for personal use, I want it, and I want it available to me. So take me through some of the strategy for rolling out and the changes in technologies.
Okay, sure, Justin. So, we're in the midst of rolling out a number of technologies with a couple of new ones to complete the overall suite. What we call the multi-technology mix within the NBN. It's to deliver NBN speeds to all homes and businesses in Australia with a consistent product offering. And we started with fibre to the premise and a wireless technology, and also an interim satellite solution. We've just released fibre to the building over the last month or so, and underway with fibre to the node. And as we get into 2016, we'll also be releasing a hybrid fibre coax NBN solution to the market as well. And then lastly, rounding that out with the long-term satellite solution that replaces our interim to cover all of the sort of 10 or 12 million homes in Australia and businesses, and provide a service that our customers, like Telstra, can use, package, and present to end businesses such as yourselves online.
Yeah, so I want to get the results of our poll, and it looks pretty split between people who want to do it as soon as possible, which is great, and those who want to make the migration, but it's not a top priority for them. Hopefully one of the things that we'll talk you through today is some of the reasons why to get that done very, very quickly, and why that is a very good thing. So, Rob, I want to hand it off to you, and first of all, let's talk about some of the justification for why NBN, because I know some people sit at home and they use their internet and it's fine, and some businesses are very content with the existing speeds and technologies they have, but why do you think NBN has been a point of contention, and why do you think we need it?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of reasons, and thanks for the question. I think from a consumer point of view, you can see on the page that I've got here, there's quite an explosion, if you like, in the ability to receive and manage and send information, which could be in the form of written, it could be music, it could be video, it could be not only receive video, but with the YouTube generation and so forth, it could be a lot of generated video as well. And so there is quite a shift, a seismic shift happening, and it has sort of started some years ago and will continue in the transition from traditional media into digital media. And that does reflect in business as well. So many businesses are using cloud platforms or communicating via video rather than travelling in person. So as well as the consumer, there are many opportunities for business to do things more quickly or more cheaply, or in fact reach another market that they might not be able to reach if they stick with the existing technology and media. So there's a lot of drivers in terms of existing consumer and business behaviour. And then there's an additional need from an NBN point of view, given that it's a government initiative, to bridge the divide between those that have and those that don't have access to internet services at the moment. So the reason why we've got all of these different technologies on offer, that we're building all of these different components, is so that people in regional and rural Australia, as well as in the towns, can actually get access to the content that in the cities we're more used to having, and then also to generate business from those areas where they previously might have to travel and sell. Now they can maybe do it more remotely on the internet.
Yeah, we're actually very fortunate in Telstra that we have a lot of these communication technologies, and it's great because my team in Melbourne, I can communicate with them basically face to face, so that when we actually meet, it's not a big deal because we've collaborated so well via video. The one question has just come in from Peter. He says he has a business in a Darwin shopping centre. They're actually based in a residential suburb, which has had the NBN rolled out to it, which I think brings up a good follow-up question, which is, in terms of strategy, are you targeting business areas first and then to consumer, or is it rolling out consumer first and I don't want to say business as afterthought, but business as the next step?
Yeah, look, where we're at the moment, and that was a little bit of a reset of the whole NBN rollout when the current government took over a little while ago. But, I mean, starting from where we were then, we're basically building out the construction on all fronts and doing that in residential and business areas. So what that means is when we're constructing fibre to the premise, we do actually go down every street and connect up every home. Mm-hmm. And we also design a solution for each business that's in that area. That has predominantly started in more residential areas than business areas. However, we will be continuing to expand all of the work fronts to accommodate both premises and businesses as we continue. The one thing I would mention, though, is it is more difficult to put a solution into a complex shopping centre than it is into a house, and so there are additional components that are needed to make sure that every shop front in that shopping centre does actually get connected.
Yeah, so
it is one of the reasons. It is one of the reasons. Sorry to jump in. Yeah. That the fibre to the building or fibre to the node technologies was also introduced, and that will enable a faster rollout of an NBN service into a complex building. And enable those services.
Yeah, so one of the issues that we're running into is complex sites, and Marie's just asked a question about that, particularly retail businesses and shopping centers. We'll dive into that, I think, in just a few minutes, but I want to talk about the process of acceleration, because to this point it's been a lot of planning, but now we are in a position where the builds are starting, and it's going to be happening very, very rapidly.
Yeah, that's very true. So where we're at the moment, and might have caught up with a few people, that we're getting close to 1 million homes and businesses already serviceable on the NBN, and every week we're connecting 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 new homes and businesses to the NBN. So the whole process is that we build out an area, we declare that it's ready for service, and then Telstra and others will be making contact with their customers or trying to acquire customers to sign them up and convert them across from their existing services onto the NBN. So currently, at the beginning of April of this year, we were at about 900,000 premises serviceable where orders could be placed, and in fact about 400,000 premises, both homes and businesses, had already gone ahead and placed orders and been connected. And as I said, that's happening at sort of 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 premises per week. And of those, about 10% are businesses, 10, 11% are businesses today. Now, as we look forward, that number of 800 or 900,000, by June we're going to get to about 1.1 million. And then over the next 18 months there'll be another 2 or 3 million premises that we cover. So we're in a strong ramp-up phase at the moment, where over the next couple of years we'll get to that sort of 3 or 4 million and be halfway through the rollout of the entire country.
Yeah, so actually that brings up a really good question, which was just asked by John, and said, the builds are starting, and for major metropolitan areas, CBD Sydney, we're expecting it very quickly because, it's a major metropolitan area, there are lots of connections, but what about those remote and, I don't want to say rural areas, like Alice Springs that, what's the timeline there? They really need this connection. This is really going to give them a great connection to the rest of the country. What can we look at for a timeline for those areas?
Yeah, so I think the equation there is that we're starting from where we are, and we're building the work fronts of all of the areas that we've started, and we are working rapidly to introduce the new technologies to, as quickly as we can, introduce NBN right across the nation. We're also working within a financial framework which actually looks at driving the best economic outcome so that we don't spend more taxpayer money than we need to.
Right, of course.
So starting where we are, doing it as quickly as we can, and doing it as economically as we can as well. And it's not just the capital cities that are getting it at the moment. So I've learned a lot about rural town names over the last 1 or 2 years, where there's a lot of places in Tasmania and Victoria, and Darwin's there, and places, Geraldton, and a lot of places through Queensland and New South Wales as well, which in rural and regional areas are already getting the NBN service.
Yeah. That actually brings up one of the questions here on your what is the NBN code doing slide. It talks about fiber to the node, fiber to the premise, fiber to the building. There was just news a few weeks ago about a new technology style. Why the changes, and ultimately what is this going to mean for me as a business owner?
Yeah, so what we're aiming to do is to have quite a consistent product that we provide to Telstra and others. It's a wholesale product, so we don't actually sell to any business or any end householder, but we're aiming to provide a consistent product to be able to use and package, whether it be on fibre to the node, whether it be fibre to the premise, or whether it be on HFC, so that a similar sort of look and feel can occur to the business or to the householder. And so that's part of the job that we're doing at the moment, is constructing the fibre to the node product. We have just released over the last 30 days the fibre to the building product, which is the first release of NBN on a copper technology. And then as we get into 2016, we'll also be releasing that on hybrid fibre coax, which is existing plant that's either strung on poles or in the ground today. So the aim is to have a very similar product that is available for Telstra to on-sell, whether it be on copper, whether it be on fibre, or whether it be on HFC.
Yeah, so ultimately it's just about giving the good experience, the consistent experience across whatever technology you're connecting with, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can see the percentages there roughly, that about 20 to 25% will be fibre to the premise. This is of every premise in Australia. Around 40% fibre to the node or building, around 30% hybrid fibre coax, and then roughly 6 or 7% of fixed wireless or satellite.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the technologies in terms of connections, because businesses, and this hurts to say, businesses, individuals, they really don't care about how they connect. It's just that they connect, and it's the speed with which they connect. We've got kind of a breakdown here for you in a slide of what the various speeds are going to mean, but ultimately, is there going to be a lot of variance with the technologies, or is it going to be pretty consistent?
Yeah, so the takeaway from this slide, and what I'd really suggest you do, is talk to your Telstra person to work out what the best solution is for any business or any home. But the idea here is, as you can see in the green rows there for residential, you can see similar speed tiers occurring across fibre to the premise, FTTP, and across FTTB, which is building or node, and then HFC, hybrid fibre coax as well. So you can see that you get similar sorts of speed capability, whichever technology it's on. And then also with your voice, there is one incremental port basically that we have on our fibre to the premise box that sits in your home which is called UniV on this slide. It's the user to network interface for voice. And really that was designed early on just to enable you to plug your existing phone in so that it works from day one. But a lot of the services will, from here on in, be provided on whatever gateway you and Telstra work out is most suitable for you, and will work over the top of the NBN service alongside your broadband. In parallel to the residential services, we've introduced business services as well, with business data and voice. So you can see on the residential services there's for example, 100/40, that means 100 megabits per second down, which you're receiving, and 40 megabits per second up, which is your speed to send. A lot of business services are symmetrical, where you need to send and receive the same amount of data. So an application of that is simply with voice. You need to send and receive voice in a similar sort of volume, so you need a symmetrical service for a quality voice service. And likewise with video conferencing, you need a similar sort of speed up and down, a committed information rate, to be able to have a good quality video conference, or in fact you might be providing web services out of your business that you need that committed information rate as well. So there's a number of business services that we're releasing across all of the technologies as well, and then that'd be a discussion as to what services you do need based upon your need within your business as to what the most suitable ones were.
Yeah.
But we are providing, as well as those asymmetrical services residential, we're providing up to 20 and 40 megabits per second symmetrical committed information rate services to enable those business services where they're needed.
Yeah. So I had a question come in from John, and I think this will just go to a larger strategy, and maybe if you could just help us understand, what areas are being targeted, when, and why. His question is, why are fully serviced ADSL areas chosen to install NBN rather than targeting areas maybe that have a bad connection or a poor connection area? And what's the guiding principle for the NBN in terms of the rollout? Who gets it when? Is it just when the builds are ready? What's the idea behind the strategy, just so that we can understand as consumers what it's going to mean for us?
Yeah, well, what I'd suggest if you have a particular interest is go onto our website or onto Telstra's website, or talk to your Telstra contact just to find out what the rollout is. We actually release an 18-month, and we're coming up to releasing a 3-year rollout plan as well,
right,
which gives a good indication of when we're preparing to do the build and when we've actually issued the instructions of the contracts to build, and when it's still sort of further out from there. We do have many points of interconnect right around the country, and that was really a mandated ACCC decision to say how many points of interconnect we have. There's 121 of those where we're starting to build right around the country. We've actually completed that connection into those 121 already, and we're proceeding to build out from all of those points. And as I said before, it's a mixture of sort of where we started from, as well as what's the greatest return that we can get from those from the build out, to make sure that we minimise the amount of capital that we require. That does mean that we will focus on business areas, because there does tend to be more revenue from business areas than just straight residential areas. But it is a matter of managing the workforce and the ability of the construction industry to get that done.
So there was a question that came in, and maybe this will be better reserved for Paul, which is, can you expand on the concept of service levels? What is that going to mean for businesses? Are we paying for higher speeds, those sorts of things? What does service levels mean?
There's probably two levels to that question, as it were. Firstly, the speeds, and as just presented, there's different speed levels you can actually purchase, and all the products we sell in the broadband area have the option of upgrading to higher speeds. So all our products start with the 25.5, so that's 25 megabits down, 5 megabits up, and you can upgrade all the broadband services up to 100 megabits down, 40 megabits up. Now, what that means is those sorts of speeds are significantly, at least 4 times greater, if not more, than what you would be getting on ADSL at the moment. So they're significantly larger. The cost of upgrading to the highest speed is not significant. It's not a huge amount. It's $15 a month on Telstra plans. So it's not several $100s to get to that sort of level speed. Now, service level, all Telstra voice products delivered, we prioritise voice. And that's really what we call service level, or we guarantee the voice packets getting through. What that means is, when you make a VoIP call on something like, for example, like on Skype, and sometimes it goes really well, other times you get what they call stutter and jitter. What's occurring there is that your voice call traffic is being impacted by what you're doing on your broadband at the same time. What prioritisation means is that we can actually isolate the voice calling traffic, give it priority over the broadband, so the chances of that occurring are a lot lower. Now, we do that as default on all our voice offerings now.
Yeah, so actually, Paul, building off of that, Adrian had a question come in, which is if they have an issue with connection, do we call the retailer or NBN, and what sort of service level can they then expect? And is it what the retailer offers, or does the NBN have something different? Now, I think that was partially answered by Rob, but the NBN isn't selling directly.
Exactly. All the customers' interfaces are with a retail service provider such as Telstra. A lot of the facilities that are being offered for the product is actually being delivered by the retail service provider. NBN Co is delivering, as it were, the physical connection to the premise. So obviously, if that physically gets broken or one of the network components falls over, that's obviously something that NBN looks at. But things like interfacing into the internet, say if you've got a broadband service, connecting it up to the internet, Telstra is doing a lot of that as well. So Telstra has our standard service levels on fixing those sorts of issues, and then we work with NBN Co on fixing any access issues that occur.
Excellent. So I've got a ton of questions that are coming in, so thank you all for those. We're going to keep rolling through those, but I want to hand this back to Rob and give us just an overview. We've talked about this briefly, but what's happening now, what's coming up in the very near future?
Okay, so this slide that I've got here that hopefully you can all see just indicates some of the releases that we've got underway, and there is quite a portfolio of different products, different IT capability, a lot of which is enabling services for end premises, so householders and businesses, but also enabling capability for Telstra to be able to manage that. So if you look through this slide, you'll see already delivered in Q1 2015 the fibre to the building product release, so that is out there. First services, including Telstra's, have already been ordered on that particular product. Fibre on demand or co-contribution is one where if we have planned to build, let's say, fibre to the node in an area, but an individual or a council or a group of businesses believes the demand is there for a fibre to the premise rollout in that area, then we have a mechanism to actually submit a request to go through and study as to whether that's possible, and there could be a co-contribution from that council or business park to actually deliver a fibre to the premise solution if fibre to the node was the slated technology for that. So that process is now released, and we're receiving requests and working on those already.
Yeah.
And we've also issued revised product pricing to make sure that there aren't inhibitors in the way for Telstra and others to actually get going with their business services.
Yeah. So one of
looking ahead over the next.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
So one of the questions we had roll in is, what about, so everybody's excited to get this. I'm excited to get this. There's obviously a big build going on. That means there are going to be delays because there are unforeseen circumstances. Are there any sort of major delays happening in the system, and how, what are we looking at in terms of the transition going forward?
Yeah, so look, there's a lot of complexity. Undoubtedly, there's a lot of complexity, and we find things that we hadn't expected. But in terms of fibre to the premise, we provide a forecast to Telstra and the industry on a monthly basis, and looking ahead 4 months as to what the ready for service rollout is going to be 4 months hence. And we are operating, the last 2 months have been at 88 and 93% accuracy on that forecast. So we're now in a mode where we've got quite a good repeatable engine for actually predicting, forecasting and delivering upon new footprint. And then we're coming up to the release of FTTN, where the rollout is going to accelerate. There's going to be far more premises released under an FTTN rollout, simply because the copper's already in the ground and it's an easier job to actually get the fibre to the node near the building. So that's going to kick off after the FTTN release, which is in September, and we're pretty confident that we will achieve that date. We've already got 250,000 premises and businesses connected on FTTN, waiting for the product release. And last weekend we put the IT release in, which enables that as well. So most of the major building blocks are in place. There's still a bit of work to do. I know Telstra and NBN have got a bit of work to do just on stitching up all of the agreements, but I'm sure we can work together on getting that done. And then we're fairly confident of September starting that FTTN rollout. We're going to start it a bit slower than we're currently running with FTTP to make sure that we iron out a lot of the problems. And then come the start of 2016, our aim is about 100,000 premises per month will be released on FTTN, enabling quite an accelerated flow of orders coming through, whether it be businesses or in premises. And then as we get into the year, then HFC starts. So 2016 is going to be a very busy year for all of us.
Yeah, I'm over the moon excited for NBN, and I'm slightly annoyed. I just moved out of a flat that as I moved out, we got a notice that the NBN build preparation had begun. I would have stayed in that tiny little one-bedroom, but alas, gotten the notice too late.
Well, the price of the apartment might have gone up a little bit. You never know. Maybe you missed your timing there, Justin.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? So yes, we're obviously focused on both business needs as well as consumer needs. I want to answer a couple of questions now that have come in, dealing particularly with what we call complex sites or retail shopping centers, buildings with significant amounts of properties within them. A question came in from Murray, which is how is the rollout being handled for retail businesses in shopping centers, which have, of course, their own needs and their needs to connect to technologies, particularly if they're sort of chain stores that have a standardized technology between them. Some will have, some won't have. How is that being handled?
Yeah, so shopping centres are already connected to the fibre product, so there are some already that are connected. Fibre to the building is a technology which is probably a bit easier when it comes to some of these shopping centres where copper is already all the way through the building. We can put a fibre service into the comms room in the basement and connect all of the premises reasonably quickly. So both FTTP and FTTB will be used for shopping centres, and it's a matter of where that stands in the rollout as to when they will get that. But already there are numbers that have been migrated to FTTP.
Mm-hmm. And to expand that for some of the questions coming through, so in that sort of rollout, the equipment, the NBN equipment would be placed in the comms room, and then, for example, copper would be used to connect up each actual individual shop. NBN Co will be working with the actual shopping centre property manager to work through that whole process. Retail providers such as Telstra will then be also working to cut any services that each of our customers have across to this new infrastructure. So going through it and looking at all the specific cases and how we need to convert things across. So shopping centres and major buildings would be a very managed scenario like that.
Yeah, that's good to know. And it sounds like it's going to be a similar status to what was in place before. You know, it's run into the MDF and then taken care of from there, and it's building owners' responsibility to handle those connections. Is that correct?
I'm not actually 100% sure. Sometimes the building owner actually owns probably most often the building owner takes care of the wiring within the building. So I think that would be the case, Justin, yeah. Yeah,
that's actually a really good point. Kate has brought up, if you'd like to check out more, it's telstra.com.au/NBN sites. And you can find out for properties like shopping centers, as we've been describing, if you want to learn more about this process. So it really does vary from shopping center to shopping center. I think it's a larger discussion that we need to have about all of that. So let's jump on to your last slide there, Rob, and that is really, what is the NBN enabling? So having fast speed is all fine, well, and good. I think it's down to a matter of what you do with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of what's been spoken about the NBN has been about sort of the individual content and so forth, but I think there are a number of sort of groups or verticals where having information, instant information, or having remote access is transformed by the digital age and by the NBN. So all of the things that are mentioned on this particular page within health, so telemedicine and so forth, being able to get a specialist to provide help to somebody that is ill or suffering some sort of chronic issue. They might be rural or remote, and they can get access to better care. Within education, getting access to better resources, whether it be simply via the internet or whether it be via virtual classrooms. From a community point of view, linking people together. Business, certainly, the whole concept of teleworking, the different models of purchasing software or providing software through the cloud, and just the ability to interwork with your colleagues or your market is really enabled by a better internet. And then finally, entertainment. I mean, Netflix has just started the wave of usage in Australia has just been phenomenal in the last couple of weeks, and all of the service providers are saying, "Wow, that's quite substantial." So the way that we all view content and movies, do we buy videos? Do we go to the cinema? Do we see it on our screen? 4K TV is coming right up. So there's a lot of new stuff coming in, but also different ways of using some of the media that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
And it is enabled by the NBN.
There's a lot of fantastic opportunities that are out there, but I'm really, really excited about it. I want to ask you a question, Rob, but before we do that, I want to ask you a question of you in the audience, which is, what are your key drivers for moving to the NBN? You can select all that are applicable to you here. Is it because you have to? Is it for the increased products and feature functionality? Is it to increase your addressable market? Is it to consolidate your business end user service, your voice, your video, your data, all of that? And is it to enable your employees to use a greater range of applications? Obviously, using things like Box is much easier because you're going to be transitioning big files. It's much easier and a much better experience with something like Box. So go ahead and fill those answers out for me. Let me know what you think there. And Rob, that question I had for you was Brian asks, so how are VoIP calls into 000 managed?
I might handle that.
Please.
It's Paul Shepherd here. VoIP calls, which is voice over IP, a lot of people think of that, instantly think of services on the internet where you make a voice call and it goes over the internet. There's two different elements of this. With the new technology we're introducing, it's a digital voice service. So the voice does go through the router and then goes through the NBN co-infrastructure. But the key difference with the way Telstra delivers voice is we do not put that voice on the internet. So the voice is actually delivered through, as I was saying before, a quality of service connection that is prioritised over any other data going through through the network. It's taken through the NBN access network. It's then ported into Telstra and put through our standard telephone networks. So it is not treated any differently to any other call. So it is actually put into the same network that your standard phone call to 000 would be, and then it's delivered to 000 or any other call, like an international call or a mobile call, in the same way we treat any other call in Telstra. So it's prioritised through our own network at the highest level as well. So we've tested that fully out with our calls.
Very good. That's good to know. Paul, is it a good time as any to hand it off to you and talk about what NBN means for business. And I have one question I want to hand to you before that, which deals with the issue of contracts. And nobody likes to talk about money. Nobody likes to think about a bad deal. But Julie has a question. If they've just signed a new network agreement with Telstra, and say the NBN starts rolling out 6 months later, what's the process for that? Are they stuck in the contract? Is there a way to transition to the new technology? What happens?
There is. Basically, your account manager or Telstra representative can work through that with you. The normal approach is that we are migrating you across to the NBN, so it's not a new cost, new contract type scenario, but it's done on a case-by-case basis, but should be no major issues with that.
Good. That's good to know. So let's talk about what NBN is actually going to mean for business. One of the questions we had in the poll there was, the ability to enable your employees to use different data sharing technologies, and that's just one of the minor things that we can do or do better with NBN.
Okay. Probably a lot of you right now are feeling a bit confused by all these acronyms, all this technology, all these changes, and what that actually means to you. And there's a lot of words up there, and deliberately a little bit confusing of what the outcome's going to be. To demystify it, you don't actually really need to worry about the NBN. What Telstra will do is make sure that you're connected up and the services that you use currently will work across the NBN. There will be some changes and there will be a lot of improvements, but we manage that. That's our job to actually go, for example, you've got a broadband and you've got a couple of voice services at a side and you've got an EFTPOS machine. Our job is to connect that all up and make that work. The advantage you get is, just at the base level, an increase in speed. But what that unleashes is the most important thing. So I'll take you through the lows. So the first thing is, yes, you do get a higher speed with NBN than you are likely to be getting at the moment. And you get a much more consistent higher speed. You also get a multi-location connectivity. What that means is by the time this rollout is reasonably advanced, and that's going to be, as you heard from NBN, over the next couple of years, you will have many, many sites connected up to the NBN. So you can be guaranteed that most of your sites are getting a good high-speed connection. Now that might be your retail store, but it might also be your home office. You can guarantee the same speed at each end. So you get a lot more access. What that does is then that opens up a whole new future. And it opens up some of those sort of applications that you were hearing about, like video conferencing, like, for example, doing this actual conference, if you're trying to train people nationally, being able to do it with an actual video screen going at the same time. And reliably knowing that somebody working from their home can actually see the same video experience as you can. It can also mean things like cloud software, being able to actually do a lot of work that you're currently doing through your own systems, but doing them live on a server and not having to download and maintain a lot of computer infrastructure. A lot of people have asked about retail. It also means the ability to do things like install media presentations streaming live into your stores, so you can actually control the point of sale material happening. Collaboration we're talking about as well, where people at different sites can use the same tools, project management tools, engineering tools, a lot of even software such as accounting software, all at the same time, working in the same area. Security applications. There's a good example at one of our sites where a baker has actually decked out his whole bakery with security cameras, locks and monitors, so he can actually open up his premise early in the morning. He doesn't actually have to get out of bed to actually and drive down to the shop. He can jump into his home office, he can see who's at the door, let them in, lock the door behind them, or remotely. So it starts opening up quite a wide variety of activities, and it also just gives you the power to do things like backing up and archiving live at a higher speed, so you don't have to be tying up your connections for a long term. So it starts unleashing things. And think about it as the things that you do on a smartphone now. If I told you how transforming that would have been 6, 7, 8 years ago, a lot of people wouldn't have got what this will do for business. The NBN's in that stage. Once we get it, once the applications start opening up, it will totally transform business.
I think one of the keys
transformation.
Here. Yeah, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, one of the key things, and a lot of the questions have been around this, is really the change. The change point's going to be really good, really quite intense. What the important thing is, Telstra manages all of that. So for a simple site, it's a relatively straightforward change from voice and broadband across to the NBN. But for more complex sites, we can arrange a site order where we actually have people either over the phone or in person come in and look through the site, look at the services that are being used at the site, and look at the installation as well, and where the NBN equipment, if there's any involved, needs to go. What services may or may not be upgraded, and what needs to be done. So working with your Telstra representative or account manager can help unlock that and then work through all of that. And at the end of that, you also get a good report which tells you if the NBN is putting any equipment in, which occurs in wireless and also in fibre to the premise, where that should go.
Yeah, that's really useful, especially considering, a lot of us don't have the time or don't have any interest in dealing with the installation side of it. I just want it in, I just want it to work. For the longest time, all we had to do was plug something into the wall and make a phone call, and it was taken care of for us. This is going to be a different way of thinking for a lot of people. That said, we're here to help. Just give a call. All right, so I want to jump into another question here for you in the audience, and that's dealing with the concerns you have about the NBN. Are you worried about downtime during transition, which we'll get to in just a moment, about the new technology being insecure? Is it that your existing infrastructure will not work on the NBN? Is your risk of disconnection so that you won't have any connection whatsoever? Is it that you don't feel that the NBN products are a fit? Or it's that you just don't know enough about the NBN and what it's going to mean for your business? So that survey has popped up on your screen. I want to go now to Jordan Bell and talk about some of the case studies of some of the people who have already had the NBN in. One of the interesting things I pull out of this is everyone says, get it done early.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Just on these ones, all these case studies can be found in a booklet that we've created online. It's the NBN Pocket Book, and I'm sure there'll be a link available to find those. And really, this is where the NBN can come to life through real examples and through businesses. So the first one I wanted to chat through was Wanted Streetwear. So just on the next slide, we've got Luke Dawson, and Luke's from Launceston, and he runs a retail clothing shop. Now, Luke is limited by his geographic location to around about 1,000 customers in his area, he says, and he recently moved to a new premises which had the NBN connection available. So what he did was he contacted his Telstra rep, and he made sure that he had plenty of notice before he moved in, and that he wanted to get it all sorted. And that's one of the key call-outs, as Justin mentioned, is that as you hear and as you keep up to date, Telstra will do the same. We'll let you know when things are coming, how far it is from you in terms of where you are, and we'll do our best to communicate with you. And Luke definitely found that to be an advantage from him. He also, once he got connected, he knew that the NBNs would bring faster speeds, but what he wasn't expecting was that for realigning some services, it actually worked out cheaper for him. And again, that's where your Telstra contact, I think, can come in really handy about how can I get the most from mixing things up in terms of changing from one technology to another, and how can I make the most of this transition. And Luke is actually looking forward to new technologies which will be available on the NBN. And a bit of an update from Luke is that since being connected on the NBN through Telstra, he's expanded into an online store, and he's communicating a lot with suppliers overseas and in Australia via video, and he's doing a lot to expand his business despite of his his industry and his location. So I think Luke is a great example of someone who has acted early, who has tried to take advantage of the new opportunities that are coming in, and especially with partnering with Telstra to get the most out of that.
Right.
So that's Luke from Launceston. The next one I wanted to speak about was an example from Tullamarine in Victoria. So we've got this example here, and this is a business that deals with flight simulators and a whole bunch of other kind of high-tech education and training and commercial flight and simulators in that type of area. So we've got Chris, and obviously in a high-tech environment, the connection is paramount. And what Chris noticed is that as he partnered with Telstra, you can see on the bottom of that slide, in terms of installation, it was very, very easy and very fast with little downtime. And that came because of, on part of Chris as well, as he worked with Telstra, that he was able to get that sorted. Now, some of the benefits that Chris noticed in his business was that previously, as they would update software or they would do any sort of system updates, that it could take over 4 hours. Now, with his super fast NBN connection now, he's noticed that has actually decreased in most cases to 1 to 1. So I know that some of the questions and comments so far today have been around we waste potentially a lot of time online because so many things require us to be online. So whether it's tax, whether it's banking, there's a whole bunch of things that require us to be online. So just consider what that would mean with a faster connection, first of all, to do what you're currently doing. But from the example we saw earlier with Luke, is not only did he do what he used to do faster, but he actually expanded and did more for his business, because he could see it was not just about a fast connection, it was about a partner, and it was about someone who was able to work to grow his business. Now, some of the other benefits that Chris is seen in his business is that they do real-time desktop sharing. So as they work with Boeing and other companies all around the world, they're able to collaborate a lot better, and they're able to get training from the best in the world. And this has really helped Chris in his business. And I think we've got two examples there of Chris and Luke who have used the NBN, not only successfully transitioned their business onto the NBN, but they've also looked for opportunities about how that can help their business and expand it. So like I said, those examples and some others are available on the NBN Pocket Guide, which has lots of practical information for any business owner.
Yeah, excellent. You can download a copy of that Pocket Guide in the Resources tab along the bottom of your screen. Also of note, that's going to be updated again in about a week, so that'll be an updating document. Feel free to refer back to that link to get the latest information about the NBN and what Telstra is doing with it. So a lot of cool stuff. We have a lot of questions that have come in from the audience, and I want to take some time to get to those. But one last question for you in the audience, which is, what would encourage you to migrate to the NBN sooner? Is it that free consultation, a discount on installation, a promise for a timely setup, bundling discounts for multiple services, understanding more about what the NBN and it means to your business, the risk of disconnection, or the increased performance and speed alone? So while those populate, I'm going to pose some questions to you, our experts, and that is, we've had a question from Aaron and Adrian, both dealing with the legacy lines, particularly the ADSL and the ISDN lines. What's happening to these old systems? What about these disconnections is going to happen, and what can we do with our existing systems?
With ISDN, which is often used to interface with PABXs and other phone systems, at the moment that's not scheduled to what we call be disconnected or come across to the NBN at the moment. However, consultation is underway with NBN Co, and at a point in the future that will occur, but it's not being scheduled to occur yet. So in effect, ISDN lines don't have to be disconnected, they don't have to be moved to the NBN, and they can continue as they are. What was the broadband question?
So then what about ADSL lines? Are those being then eventually shelved entirely? And as a follow-up, what would you recommend to replace that, if not the NBN?
Yeah. At the moment, the NBN rollout is really focused at any internet service, and that's usually ADSL or cable broadband, and what we call PSTN voice, which is the standard voice line you normally get from Telstra, a fixed voice line. Now, with ADSL, it's a one-for-one move across to, for Telstra customers, across to our T-Biz broadband product, which is really just broadband on the NBN. The great advantage with that is it gives you the same access to the same same way through Telstra's internet gateways, etc. But it's just as I say, it's on steroids. It's like broadband on steroids. So you'll notice a massive increase when you come across to that.
Yeah, that's excellent. So another question came in from Stephen, which is, will we be able to move our current head office Telstra WAN connection to the NBN infrastructure while our other sites remain on Telstra's normal MPLS network? In other words, how well are they going to play together? Will we see a lag in productivity?
Hi, it's Sarah here. No, one of the great things about our MPLS network is it's ubiquitous in technology, so it'll be able to exist with NBN technology and the legacy Ethernet or Ethernet-like connections you might have now.
Oh, that's excellent. That's an easy answer. Do want to say thank you to Adrian. He just chimed in that they had the consultation done and considered it worth it. They referred it to one of their NBN installations. So, yeah, I do recommend that site consultation just to get a sense of your options, really. It's always good to have somebody take a look at your network and make sure that you're ready to go and that the NBN is going to be right for you. Question came in from John, which is, given that the rollout is now a hybrid, are there plans to change to fiber, or does NBN Co. think that wireless is going to be the end game? So what's the next step, I guess, in technology?
Yeah, so it's Rob here. There are changes in technology all the time. So wireless is improving and copper technology is improving, and fibre is improving all the time as well. But I think the laws of physics will remain that the fibre capability is likely to continue to be at least equal or better than the other technologies as time goes by. There's currently no plan to replace the fibre product that's there with any other technology, because we could expand it to, currently the highest speed is 100/40, so 100 down and 40 up. We could easily turn on a gigabit per second or even 10 gigabits per second if there was a need in the market for that on that same fibre product. And to do that on wireless would cost a lot. You'd have to put up more towers and do many other things, which is just economically unfeasible. So if I answer the question correctly, would wireless ever overtake fibre? I think the answer to that is no. And we do see there being an evolution through every technology path to be able to expand the speeds as we need. Even as we're speaking, and we were talking about the technology speed on copper and getting up to 100 megabits per second, that may well over the next few years go up again to 200 and 400 megabits per second. We know that in the hybrid fibre coax world we'll be able to deliver 100 down from day one, but that with DOCSIS 3.1 will go up to 200 and 400 megabits per second, which is already being tested in the lab. So it's one of those things where we'll see a migration across all of the technologies. But to get back to the first question, I don't see wireless replacing fibre that's already there.
Yeah, wirelesses and satellite use is really where the infrastructure of laying out a piece of fibre or copper out to a customer is so much. So you've got a very dispersed population, those sorts of things. So it's really in towns and cities, definitely fibre and then copper, fibre, HFC and copper would be the sort of priority order, as it were. But in those rural and remote areas where you've got farms, wireless is a much better option because of just the cost of laying 10 kilometres of fibre in for one person is just not ever going to be viable. And that comes down to a question from Aaron too, which is, does Telstra recommend using fixed wireless to replace ADSL1 connections? Depends on your area. If you're happy with an existing ADSL1 connection and you're happy with that speed, no, you don't have to move across because it's not a forced migration. But if you do move to one of our fixed wireless products, it does offer, the NBN can connect it up in your footprint, does offer a significant speed increase against that. Now, fixed wireless is subject to some locational issues, like if you're behind a hill or a major building or stuck in a valley, there may be issues getting it, but NBN Co will actually come out and check the service at your site.
Yeah, I think that's really good. We had a couple of questions coming in about future technologies, particularly, is there any plans to increase upload speed? And I know that's one of limitations of just the nature of technology, but something that we're all fighting to get is those consistent speeds going both ways. Is there any plans to increase upload speeds down the road? And also, is wireless going to be sort of a fallback backup option for those that can't get the physical service to their area?
Yeah, it's Rob here again. So there are quite a few options already with upload speed. So I think you just need to look at whatever your need is, and if you might be on a 25.5 service to start off with, and if you need a greater upload, then you could go up to a 50/20 or 140 service, or if you need that symmetrical speed, then there are business services that are on offer already as well. So I think that caters for that. We'll continue to look at the need for both upload and download over time, and as technology rolls out to upgrade the networks. In terms of wireless as a backup, I think they're all of the points that Paul and I made before, but also just the sort of the economics, I think, of providing wireless at the same sort of levels. If you talk about mobile wireless as a backup, that provides connectivity, but it's always one of those things where to provide the same sort of throughput that you can on a wired network is challenging economically.
Yeah, and to answer that question, does this mean wireless will be less of a service but more expensive? No, because one of the key things that we're doing and NBN Co is doing is these services offer very similar, as you saw from the chart earlier, very similar technical specs, and we are pricing them the same in the market. So specifically to that question, a broadband service on fibre to the premise versus a broadband service on fixed wireless from Telstra is the same price. The only difference is that you won't be able to get the top-end speed on fixed wireless. So it's the same price. If it's $60 a month, it's $60 a month on each. The great thing is the fixed wireless network is being rolled out in areas where most customers haven't had access to broadband in the past. So there is no really competing. There will be some areas where maybe ADSL was available, but most of the areas are new. So this unlocks those areas to give them a broadband service when there was never one in the past.
Yeah. Great. Well, we're running out of time, so I do want to take a few minutes and thank the guests here today. That's Rob Hacker from NBN Co. and from Telstra, Paul Shepard and Jordan Bell. Thank you guys very much for taking some time talking this through with us. Had a few extra questions. We'll try to get those responses back out to you. But I think the ultimate takeaway here is that you need to plan ahead. Just get your order in if you are excited and you want the NBN to your business and you want that. But get somebody out to your premise and just to see what the capabilities are, what is going to be the best solution for you. There's a free consultation. And to keep up to date with the latest information, please download the NBN Pocket Guide and check back in regularly. We'll get you the latest information about what's available for the NBN. So thank you all again very much for taking some time. In just a moment, a survey will pop up. Let us know what you thought. And just check in regularly for the latest news from the NBN. We'll keep you up to date, and we'll probably do catch-ups like this for individual areas, for smaller groups when we have the ability. So excited to continue to talk about the technology and also excited to see it available out in the marketplace. So again, thank you all for taking a few minutes and joining us for this Telstra virtual event. For Rob, Jordan, Paul, I'm Justin Cleveland, and we'll talk again soon.